Sport Clips Haircuts Help a Hero program funds scholarships for U.S. veterans who are pursuing a college degree or vocational certification. Visit your nearest Sport Clips to learn more and donate now through November 11th.
Here we are, Mike and Mike, rolling along, presented by Progressive Insurance. Michael Kay will join us in a couple of minutes on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line with perspective on the Yankees moving on from Joe Girardi. He knows Girardi really well. He not only does he host afternoons on ESPN Radio in New York, but he does the Yankee games on Yes, and he did them with Joe Girardi for a while before Girardi got the managerial job with the Yankees. So we'll get perspective from him on all of that. But if you heard in the open, you heard Golic's take on the big hit of last night. The game last night was awful. 40-0 Ravens. But the big hit by Kiko Alonso on Joe Flacco as Flacco was sliding. It's clearly a late slide, and Alonso hits him directly in the side of the head. The helmet goes flying off. It's a concussion. It's a cut ear. So it's a terrible-looking play. Golic does not believe it was a dirty play. It was a 15-yard penalty. It was not. Alonso was not thrown out of the game. Here was Kiko Alonso afterwards.
It was bang, bang. You know, he got to a point where I thought maybe if he slid a second sooner, I was anticipating him to slide and I was going to not hit him. But I think it was like, a second late, which is why I hit him.
Is there anything that you could have done to avoid that contact or not put your shoulder into it?
No. I mean, no way. I mean, what the target, that's the target. You know, when a guy slides, the target is very small. And like I said, it's a bang, bang play. I hope he's all right. Truly good.
I mean, he said it right there, too. Everybody, people say, why you have to hit him in the head? Well, when you slide, the target is very small. I mean, what is there to hit that's not sliding? And it was a late slide, so you have an aiming point, and then you're hitting what's available, what's up as you're sliding, and it was a shoulder to the head. It wasn't head-to-head. It was a shoulder to the head. And, you do hope Flacco is okay, but everybody's going to watch this play at slow motion or frame by frame, which is fine, and if you want to do it that way, but you have to understand the players out there playing, it's at full speed. And what's going on in the mind of, as he said, I anticipated him sliding. He didn't. And you're talking, again, the split, talking about what goes in your mind in a split second?
Sure.
So that's what he's thinking.
Yeah.
Flacco, I know, is thinking, can he get to the first down marker, and then realizes he can't too late and starts to slide late. Kiko said, I was ready to pull off because I thought he was going to slide, and he didn't. That 1 second at that speed, that's the result.
Yeah, you have completely convinced me. And actually, everything he said there I thought sounded completely legit. The slide comes so late. We heard C.J. Mosley earlier this morning, Flacco's teammate, say, when a quarterback slides, you aim for the head. Well, that's what Alonso said. But in this case, he slid so late that when aiming for the head, he hit him in the head.
Yep, still got him.
Normally, the guy will slide under you, and you kind of go right over the top of him. But in this case, Flacco's slide was so late. Let me play Darren Woodson, and then we'll get to Michael Kay. Here's our own Darren Woodson last night. And as you would expect from a defensive player, he did not think it was dirty either.
I thought it was a bang-bang play, much like Kiko Alonso did. It felt like Joe Flacco was trying to get the first down, and he was doing his job. Kiko Alonso was doing his job to stop the first down. And we see Joe Flacco's trying to get there. Now, I haven't seen Joe Flacco move that fast in a long time. He slides at the first down marker. Kiko Alonso tries to stop him at the same time, and it's a bang-bang play. Listen, I think the problem here is this. Kiko Alonso came through and aimed for up high and hit him in the head with his shoulder. And I think that's going to be the problem when the NFL takes a look at this. They're going to send him a fine. He's getting a FedEx in the mail. He'll get fined for this hit. But at the same time, I still feel like there was no malice involved. There was no intent to do any harm to Joe Flacco. But Kiko Alonso is going to take it on the chin, and the NFL is going to make him pay dearly for this.
Agree 100%. And for those that say it was a dirty hit and it could have been avoided, I want you to explain to me how. Don't look at slow motion or frame to frame. Watch that replay in regular motion, and you tell me with the late slide how Kiko Alonso could have held up or could have pulled off of that one. It's just tough to do when you made that commitment to go.
More football to come on this Friday with Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Progressive is celebrating 5 years and more than 500 cars donated to vets. To learn more, visit keystoprogress.com. But, of course, the World Series continues tonight, the world of baseball, with a lot of news. We mentioned it earlier. 3 of the final 8 teams standing in this year's baseball postseason made managerial changes during the offseason. The Nationals making a move, the Red Sox making a move, and yesterday the New York Yankees making a move away from their longtime manager, Joe Girardi. And here with thoughts on that, as I mentioned, Michael Kay, who not only hosts afternoons on ESPN Radio New York, but does the Yankee games on Yes and worked with Girardi and the broadcast booth before Joe took over the managerial job, so knows him extremely well. With that as the backdrop, we say good morning, Michael Kay.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Well, we're fine, and we know there's nothing in the world you love more than waking up really early like this to talk with us. So I know you're obviously delighted.
Well, you know what? When I wake up before my 2- and 4-year-olds, I'm doing something.
Boy, what a commitment!
All right, so were you surprised? I mean, Buster had given us a heads up about 2 weeks ago on the air here that he expected this to happen. Were you at all surprised that this happened yesterday?
I'm not surprised that he's not the manager of the New York Yankees anymore. I'm surprised that the Yankees said, we don't want you to be the manager anymore. In spring training, I told a lot of people I thought that this was going to be it for Joe, that he was pretty much fried, but I thought that he was re-energized during the season when he saw the pipeline of players and the players that he had now and how bright the future was. And although, you had heard rumblings that there was some discord between Joe and the front office, you figured that 91 wins and going to the 7th game of the ALCS probably would have smoothed that over. So when I heard that the Yankees said goodbye, that was surprising.
Why do you think they did it?
Well, from what I've been able to piece together, he gave some pushback at times with the overwhelming analytics that the Yankees endorse. I mean, this is a heavily analytic team. Everything is driven by the numbers. It's all black and white. There's very little room for a manager to manage by the gut. And also, our friend Ian O'Connor had a perfect line that kind of sums up. Joe Girardi is a clenched fist, and that's how he goes about his job. And I think that the front office was somewhat concerned was that constant driving, tension, needing to win every single game. He's probably more suited to be a football coach than a baseball coach. Over 162 games, over 6 months, the Yankee front office, I believe, felt that wore on the players because players feed off their leader's demeanor. And Joe's demeanor is that of a very, very intense guy.
I get that part of it, Michael, but the one thing I did find interesting was after that Friday night in Cleveland where they had that really bad loss and Girardi made some mistakes and we saw all the criticism and everything else, it felt to me, and you're much closer to it than I am, but just watching it, it felt to me like the players on that team really wanted to have his back. Like there was a real genuineness in their wanting not only to win, obviously, because they wanted to win, but to get Joe off the hook, which they did by coming all the way back to winning that series. And that spoke to me about the way those players felt about him. Do I have that right or wrong?
I believe, and I believed at the time, that that's a totally false narrative. And Golic could probably speak more to this than I can, but players are playing to win for themselves. I mean, there's very little win one for the Gipper anymore. And although Joe was respected in that room, he wasn't loved. That's the difference between Joe Girardi and Joe Torre. Joe Girardi respected. Everybody sees how hard he works. Torre the same deal, but Torre's players loved him. Very little love. I don't think there was hate, but there was very little love between the players and Joe. Joe's not a warm and cuddly guy, so I don't think that they got together and said, let's win one for Joe. Let's get him off the hook because he didn't challenge Lonnie Chisenhall getting hit by that pitch. I just don't buy it. I just don't think that's how players think.
Completely agree with you. It is very few and far between in today's sporting world where the players are saying, let's win one for the Gipper. They're out there trying to win, and if it helps the manager or coach along the way, then so be it. I completely agree with that. So what type of manager do you think the Yankees will be looking for, and who do you think that may be?
Well, being around this team, for 31 years now, what they've always done is when a manager goes, they hire the opposite. So when Buck Showalter left, a hard-driving guy, then it was Joe Torre, not as hard-driving. And after Joe Torre left, then they went to Girardi. So I think that it would be more of I wouldn't say a warm and fuzzy guy, but certainly a guy who's not as intense as Joe Girardi. And the Yankees have really circled the wagons. They have not really leaked that much at all. The names that you're hearing, maybe a Raul Ibanez, in their minor league system, a Josh Paul. from their major league coaching staff, Rob Thompson, who's been with the organization over a quarter of a century. Kevin Long might be somebody that'd be interested in. A front office guy like Tim Naring, who's 50 years old but has never managed anywhere. The guy that will be chosen is a guy who has a relationship with Brian Cashman. That's important. Managerial experience, I don't think it's that important because I think that could be taught. But the willingness to dive head first into the analytics situation and manage that way and have a good relationship with the players, that's the type of guy I think they look for.
Mike and Michael Kay, and obviously a lot of Yankee fans looking at a lot of different puzzle pieces that are moving around through the sport with the Yankee legend Derek Jeter taking over in Miami and some questions about what will happen there. They'll look at another Yankee legend in Don Mattingly, who might become someone who's available, who was passed over for this last time when they decided to hire Girardi. Is there any conceivable chance you could see that happening?
No, I've been asked that so much, and I think that's the dream of Yankee fans. And Don Mattingly is one of my favorite people that I've ever covered in my career. But if they passed him over 10 years ago, when George Steinbrenner was alive, and when everybody that made those decisions knew that there were two players in the history of the Yankees since George Steinbrenner brought them that he actually looked at as sons, Derek Jeter and Don Mattingly. If he didn't get the job then, not that much has changed now. And the guy who made the decision then is the same guy who's making the decision now, and that's Brian Cashman. I just don't think that Brian looks at Donnie that way because, there were three guys that interviewed for the job after Joe Torre. It was Girardi, Pena, and Mattingly came in third. So I don't see that happening.
Michael, the future of Joe Girardi, what do you think he does?
Well, if he had walked away, I thought he'd go like a couple of years and not manage. His son Dante is an extraordinary athlete. He's going to begin high school, and I thought that Joe would see some of that through. But I think Joe's a little bit shaken up. He did not expect this to happen. He really wanted to stay manager of the Yankees. So, I don't know how a Washington Nationals team doesn't take a look at him. I think he'll manage as soon as he can. But time has gone by, and some of the positions have dried up. So if the few that are left don't consider him, obviously there's always a position for him in broadcasting. He's a great broadcaster, but I think he's going to manage again. And I think he's got respect around the baseball. And maybe, some of the things he's hearing now about why he was let go, maybe he improves on those things, but I'm not sure you can unclench a fist.
It's Michael Kay. Again, you'll hear him this afternoon and every afternoon on ESPN Radio New York. Michael, thanks a million for doing this. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care.
You got it, guys. Have a good weekend.
Michael Kay with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, taking synthetic, motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today.
You heard him mention Ian O'Connor. Ian O'Connor had a series of tweets yesterday, and it's and very close, obviously, ESPN.com, ESPNNewYork.com author as well. These are some tweets in succession from Ian O'Connor. The Yankees have long been frustrated with Joe Girardi's failure to apply a more human touch to the job. Hurt him a lot. Next tweet. Joe Girardi's relationship with his players, though not entirely broken, was not what his bosses hoped it would be. Another tweet. Well-connected Yankees source said in playoffs that notion the players won one for Joe versus Cleveland wasn't based in fact. Another tweet. Yankees execs persuaded Girardi to humanize himself in 2009, disappointed he never took additional steps from there. So those are some of the tweets from Ian
Humanize
O'Connor.
himself is a fascinating choice of words.
I get what they're saying.
So do I. Of course. He is an intense person. The book on him is he manages every game like it's Game 7 of the World Series. And, of course, you can't do that in May and June and all the rest of that. I will just say this. Two things. One, you and I have both seen Girardi outside of that milieu. He is an emotional guy.
Yes, he is.
We did the reason that we first met him was that we hosted a March of Dimes luncheon in Manhattan. This is years and years ago. I remember they honored several celebrities, including Venus Williams and Joe Girardi. And Girardi got up there and he spoke and he teared up and he was thanking his wife and he started crying, remember? And I thought to myself, this is not the image that people have of Joe Girardi. And so I had that. So the human side of it, I get it. He's an intense person. That's the way. That's his managerial style. Lots of guys are that way, and they've had a lot of success doing that. I've always said, look at a team, look at the players, and then say, did they win more games then fewer games than or about the same games as you would expect them to. And I think they overachieved. I think for that team this year to win as many games as they did and go as deep as they did into the playoffs, they were one game away from going to the World Series. I think he did a great I think that he just did a great job as the manager. I think taking everything else out of it, he did a great job managing.
I agree.
He
said a winning season every year. Now people are going to say, well, they have the money to spend to have a good season. We both like him. Bottom line is we both like him as a person, and we both think he's a good manager. But from the Yankee side of it, management side of it, I agree with you. I think they were early this year, so they overachieved a bit this year. But, that's what you have to do if you're management. You have to look ahead and you say, okay, we got these young guys. We really like bringing them along, and we want a different personality to bring them along. So I think that's basically where it is, don't you? I mean, I think that's exactly it is. Yeah. So I think that's the type of manager you're going to get.
I think he also may not. He's a person who's doing his job. I don't know that he managed up as well as they may have liked.
Right.
Also. So there you have that. Girardi out as manager of the Yankees. We'll see where they go. Again, it's a sport where 3 of the last 8 teams standing made managerial changes. The last 8 teams with a chance to win the World Series included the Red Sox, the Nationals, and the Yankees. They will all have new managers next year. I want to read you a tweet. We're Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance, our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And as I clicked on my inbox here, my timeline, or the mentions.
There you go.
Jeff tweeted at us 10 minutes ago. Let's be honest. If Tom Brady is on the receiving end of that hit last night, it's treated like a national tragedy by everyone. Now, I know it wouldn't be by you.
No.
I know. Let me stop you. I know you wouldn't say anything different. No. But do you think the reaction this morning would be different if that was a different quarterback?
Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. We heard it with Aaron Rodgers and what was a clean hit. Everybody still lost their mind trying to find a way to say it was a dirty hit. So, yeah, I think no doubt about it. I mean, just pick a quarterback. Cam Newton, how many shots does Cam Newton
they don't even throw a flag.
They don't even throw flags on him. So that's happened to Ben Roethlisberger as well. Flacco's certainly not known to be a running quarterback at all, and he was humping there trying to get to the first down. So, yeah, I do think from a national perspective, it would make a difference of what quarterback it was. But from mine, it certainly doesn't. And from a football player's, it shouldn't. Do you think if Kiko Alonso is in that same position running up and it's Tom Brady, that he's going to think in his head? I said a lot of things go through your mind. You know what's not going through his mind? Well, this is Tom Brady. I better not hit him or I'm going to lose a lot of money. You're still out there trying to make a football play. He's trying to get the first down. We know what yard line the first down is. He's trying to get it. I'm going to try and stop him. He slid late. He took the hit that he took. Now, you're going to get fined now for it. But from the football side of it, you don't think about that out there. You after the play is called, you probably go, well, yeah, it's Tom Brady or it's Aaron Rodgers, probably why they threw the flag. Drew Brees, as opposed to, quarterback A, B, or C, who you don't know as well.
Exactly. But that doesn't change the fact that if we open the show this morning and Tom Brady is the one who got up with his helmet knocked off and blood coming out of his ear and looking like he doesn't know what stadium he's in, what city he's in, what day it is, that would lead, Good Morning America and all those shows, they'd be talking about it. And that just is what it is.
Yes, it is.
It doesn't change the action.
It does not change the action at all.
And as Dominique said, if Flacco just bounces up and he's fine, if the helmet doesn't come off and Flacco bounces up and he's fine, it's a 15-yard penalty, and we opened the show this morning with you saying that shouldn't even be a flag. Yeah. What in the world is he supposed to do? They can't make any more rules to protect these quarterbacks. You're right. So, the reaction, sometimes our reaction is predicated upon how something turns out. Yeah. It just looks bad when his helmet flies off and the look on his face.
It does. Yeah, it does. And when you can do it in slow motion and look at it that way, everybody go, oh, my God, throw that guy out of the game, suspend him. What a dirty play.
And by the way, I also, as a consequence of last night's game, have to announce the end of my bid here to try to replace Todd McShay or Mel Kiper as an analyst of these players and how good they are. Because I spent 3 days
anointing Matt Moore,
making Matt Moore like the next Tom Brady, and then he spent 60 minutes last night convincing me and everyone else that I have no idea what I'm talking about. Yeah. Oh my God, was that awful!
Listen, he was playing against a really good defense, no doubt about it. But 2 pick sixes, it just wasn't happening. So, we already heard, we talked about it yesterday that Jay Cutler may be able to go next week. So I don't think there's any doubt that as soon as Jay Cutler's ready to go, even as bad as he's been playing, he's going to be the quarterback in the Miami Dolphins.
My God.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a ridiculously strange game. So taking all the joking around about it aside, Moore comes into the game last week. Mm-hmm. He takes over an offense that has looked all day long, has looked moribund, it has looked slow, it has looked lifeless. And he comes onto the field and he just takes over.
Get a spark.
It was a total spark. Mm-hmm. And the Dolphin offense looked really good, and Stills is making great catches, and he's throwing the ball around different people, and they just looked like an entirely different team, and they come back and win. And then 4 days later, they look like the worst offense in the entire NFL.
A guy comes in, a spark comes in, you make a couple of plays, and everybody gets lifted a little bit, right? So you kind of run with that. And in this game, they never got to that point. It was almost like same old. Here we go again. So nobody got lifted. So you want to obviously put it on the players, put it on execution, give credit to the defense of the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of ways to go.
Strange sport.
Hey, everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
As a Marine serving in Afghanistan, I conducted logistics patrols in some of the world's most dangerous places.
The Sport Clips Help a Hero Scholarship Program helps military veterans like Jacob Dietz transition into civilian life.
The Sport Clips Help a Hero Scholarship is helping me get a degree in electrical engineering.
You can donate to Help a Hero at all participating Sport Clips locations. And on Veterans Day, November 11th, Sport Clips will donate $1 for every cut. Sport Clips. It's good to be a guy.
All right, we are Mike and Mike. We have a lot to get to this morning. There was just posted a really, really interesting piece. I've actually had it for about a day here from Seth Wickersham and Don Van Natta with insight into what really happened at last week's NFL owners meetings where the players came and they talked at great length about a variety of off-the-field issues of which you are certainly aware. Great insight in that piece, a lot of detail. We'll get to that coming up shortly. But first, let's do the ridiculousness that is Love It or Shove It with Bubba, who, as I look up on my monitor, Bubba, where exactly is it you are?
What's up, guys? Yeah, I'm just at my house. Yeah, just.
Wait a minute, your house.
That's
you
your house?
Sitting in front of a castle.
The castle.
Yeah, no, things are doing pretty well over here.
What is that? What is
Love
it?
It or Shove It, yeah. What?
It's a pumpkin.
Oh, I'm just really excited for Halloween.
Like a carved pumpkin.
Got my mug. Got my mansion.
Do you give out?
Shirt.
Do you give out small candy or the big size candy?
It kind of varies. I size up each person and decide what they deserve.
Do the kids have a hard time getting there through the moat to do their trick-or-treating?
Well, I put down the drawbridge, so it's fine.
It's excellent use of drawbridge. I mean, look at
it's a pretty sweet house. Yeah, no, I mean things are
Versailles?
Going pretty well for me in the Love It or Shove It realm.
I would think so.
I think you know where all the money came from. When we would do the lottery.
Oh, that's
Powerball.
exactly right.
Took all our money from that.
That's
a
great.
No, that was good. That was really good. Thank you, guys. Yeah. that addition in the southwest corner, that was Powerball.
It's a great Mike and Mike memory. Back in the day, Bubba would collect money from all of us to buy Powerball tickets, and then every single week he'd say, "Oh, sorry, we didn't win." And we're convinced that he pocketed all the money. How much did you wind up?
Of that, hashtag #thanks. Let's make a throwback of that, huh?
How much did you wind up pocketing on that, all told?
I think it was like $6,000. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
bunch of that house behind you.
No, yeah, we just never won. It was weird. Yeah, our numbers were never pulled.
But you know what he did? He, like any brilliant Ponzi schemer, he kept us in it. He was like, we actually won $71 this week.
You couldn't not do it.
I did a great job.
Yeah, you did. You were very good at that, and we were suckers.
We really were.
Yeah.
All right. Bubba's got Love It or Shove It, which is brought to you by Granger. Bubba, what do we have?
Joe Girardi will be a manager somewhere next season. Love it or shove it.
There's part of me because it was the choice was made for him that he's going to want to get right back into it, where if he chose himself, he may back away from it for a little bit. So for that reason, I'll say I love it. I think he'll want to jump back into it, but would not be shocked at all if he is broadcasting for a year or so.
Are there any openings right now besides Washington? Is that the only Philadelphia's open? I mean, the only reason I'd say shove it is that there's just a limited window of opportunity.
I guess I should have found that out before I said.
Well, I'm just most other teams finished their seasons a month ago.
You're right. I changed my mind. I'm shoving it.
I'm going to say shove it just based on the. I mean, if the Nationals don't want him, could he go to Philly? He could. Is that a building situation? Is that what he wants? I think if he were offered the Nationals job, I'd be surprised if he didn't take it.
I agree with that.
But because that's just one situation, I'll say I shove it. Bubba,
where
are you now?
Behind you is a TP'd
Yeah,
tree.
it looks like the kids got a little rambunctious last night.
They TP'd your tree?
Yeah.
I used to do that when I was young.
Yeah, they got me good.
Yeah.
You used to do what? You would put toilet paper in people's trees?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's really cool when you do it the right way and you throw that roll and it just unfurls right over just how you want it to. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm noticing that right now.
And then you hope.
Sweet.
You hope it rains after that. Oh, man, then you really got to win. Kids, don't try that at home.
Yeah, no, they got me good at my mansion last night. My love it or shove it mansion. Thanks, Granger.
All right, Bubba, what's next?
One of the Power 5 conference undefeated college football teams will lose this weekend. Love it or shove it.
Wow. Penn State, Ohio State, the undefeateds are Georgia, who plays Florida, TCU plays Iowa State, Wisconsin plays Illinois, and Miami plays North Carolina. I think that the betting safe would be saying Penn State going to Ohio State of all those games, I would say.
Well, Iowa State has pulled off that huge upset earlier this year.
They did that, yeah.
That was at Oklahoma, if memory serves. This one is at Iowa State. So could they do that? Florida has given Georgia a hard time.
They have, but I like Georgia this year a lot. I would lean to Penn State or TCU.
Who's going to win the Penn State-Ohio State game? Who's going to win that game?
I think Penn State is, but if you're asking me this question, the best chance for the possibility of an undefeated losing, I think it'd be Penn State.
Yeah, so I'm going to say shove it. I'm going to say I think they all win. The question is, one of the Power 5 conferences unbeaten teams will lose. I'm going to say shove it.
Okay.
I think they're all going to win.
I misread the question, which is not shocking for me. I shove it as well. I think they're all going to win.
They're all going to win as well. I agree with you. Penn State would be the one you'd look at. I think they're going to win, too. Michael loving it or shoving it with Bubba, where are you now, Bubba?
Oh, I'm just outside my butler's quarters. As you'll see, it's a little smaller, but I was just decorating his stuff.
So nice. You have the skeleton out there.
Jeeves is a good guy. Yeah, he's a good guy.
Looks good. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you got next?
LeBron says the last thing he wants to accomplish in the NBA is shooting 80% from the line. Love it or shove it.
Oh, how can you not love that? I mean, that's the weakest part of his game at this point, right? I mean, we just went through a game where they're down 2 with 10 seconds to go, and he missed the first shot of 2 shots, so he had to miss the second one on purpose. He hasn't done well from that aspect, and his free throw shooting isn't great. So, you make your streak a weakness a strength, and that's one of the last very few weaknesses he has that he can improve upon.
His best free throw shooting season was 78%. The 08-09 season in Cleveland.
Career, he's 74.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what there is
that's
to
not
love.
Awful.
I'm not sure what there is to love or shove about this. If there is a knock on LeBron's game, which is maybe the most diversely great game in the history of basketball, the one is he's not a great foul shooter. So the idea that that's the one thing left he wants to accomplish, I would think that he would be very happy to shoot 76% and win the ring, right? I think that's a little more important. So I'm going to shove it, but I don't really understand it.
There you go.
Bubba, what is this now? Where are you now?
No, I actually just made a quick stop at Rite Aid. I'm just big on dental hygiene, so I just want to pick up some toothbrushes.
You don't give out toothbrushes, do you? Okay.
No.
Again, I don't.
I just happen to be in front of 500 toothbrushes.
Okay, I'll have that
I'm
conversation.
not buying for Halloween.
All right, I'll have that conversation next week on those people that give out pennies or toothbrushes or other
that. I just like clean teeth.
Stupid stuff like that.
By the way, speaking of that, and we weren't really. We got our Halloween costumes for this year.
Yes, we did.
This is going to be our best one yet.
I like it a lot.
We're going out with a bang.
Hope mine fits.
Don't miss next week. I'm telling you right now, our Halloween costumes
and
are
you know
awesome.
what? Kind of fits us. Yeah.
I'll tell a funny story about it when you see what it is. Meanwhile, Bubba, what's our next love or shove?
I can't wait for that. Am I going to be involved?
No.
Could you be more involved? You're sitting there in a pumpkin shirt right now.
No, but on Halloween. Am I going to be dressing up with you guys or what?
If you're not busy at your mansion.
Yeah, no, I usually am. The Knicks are the worst team in the NBA. Love it or shove it.
Now, you have to say you love it.
Yeah, they're the last winless team.
And not only that, but, I mean, they've got players saying that they don't know the plays. Like Courtney Lee was saying, the problem we have right now is our guys don't know the plays. What do you mean you don't know the plays? What have you been doing? They don't know the plays.
I don't even understand.
That's a legitimate quote. Someone pull that up. I'm not making that up.
I don't understand that. Didn't you just have like training camp and preseason and that whole thing?
Yeah, and it's not a team that has gone through enormous amounts of personnel change. Now, maybe they stopped being forced to run whatever triangle they were running last year based on Phil not being there anymore. But, I mean, you'd think you'd know the plays. That was one of the stories of the other day. Here it is. This is Courtney Lee says the team's problem is they don't pay enough attention during practice and need to study the playbook. Tim Hardaway Jr. said, we're all out there just running like we don't know what's going on. Okay.
What is that?
That inspires great confidence.
Holy smokes.
So
we're going to love this one.
Yeah. Are they the worst team?
Yeah.
Sure they are. All right, last one. I like this story. Bubba, go.
Kyrie Irving really thought he was playing on a court from the 68-69 season. Love it or shove it.
Did you see this?
Go ahead, explain this story.
They played a game. The Celtics and Bucks played a game in Milwaukee, and they played it in the arena of UW Milwaukee. It's a small arena, and they called it Mecca Night. The Mecca is the building that the Bucks used to play in. It was It was a professional arena. It wasn't that long ago. I remember being in it when I was in college. So they painted the floor to look like the old Mecca used to.
Right.
And Kyrie said he took 3 steps on the floor and said, this is not an NBA level court. I'm worried about player safety. And they explained to him, no, this is the same court you play on.
Court, yes.
They just painted it differently.
Yes, yeah.
And then after the game, this is the part of it I liked. After the game, Kyrie was like, well, I see people made a very big deal about what I said. It got blown up out of proportion. And the thought that I had on that was, well, you wanted to be the star.
Yes, you did.
You know, now you know what that's like. Every word LeBron says. Every word that LeBron James says, that Kobe Bryant said, that the superstars, the guys, the number one guys on their team, every word they say, a big deal is made of it, whether it should be or it shouldn't be. So a big deal was made of this.
Yes,
and
it
that's
was.
the reality.
That's the reality of it. So I love it or shove it. I don't know what he thought he was playing on a floor that was really, really old.
Yeah, and I don't listen. If that's what he thought, that's what he thought. I'm not saying he wasn't within his rights to think that. If no one explained it to him in a way that he understood at that point, the part of the story I thought was interesting was that afterwards he seemed to be a bit miffed or surprised that a big deal had been made of this.
Right.
And that's what I was thinking is, you know what? You want to be that guy? Then a big deal is going to be made of every word you say.
Yeah, it's very
right
true.
or wrong, whether you like it or not. That's the reality. And that's, of course, always true of Bubba as
Thanks,
well.
Bubba.
Love it or shove it, brought to you by Grainger. No matter the job, Grainger's got your back. Grainger for the ones who get it done. What are your plans in the mansion today, Bubba?
I'm just probably going to hang out in the parlor, in the billiard room. If you guys want to swing by. Yeah, just let me know.
Put our name on the list, okay?
Yeah, no, there's a list. Yeah, and I'll have to put the drawbridge down again. I usually try and do it once, so let me know. But yeah, I'll be in the study.
He's going to be.
I'll be in the
parlor,
in the rooms.
I don't even know.
Yeah,
I don't know why I found that funny, but I did. Bubba, that was
leather-bound books.
Thanks, Bubba.
Thank you, Bubba.
Very well done, Anchorman.
It's Brendan Bubba Peregrine.
Really quick, I had a
quickly.
You're done. We're done with you. So.
Mike's still on. Quickly,
someone turn his mic off. In Philly, you know, when we played at the old Vet, when the Phillies played there as well.
Sure.
We played, and then the Phillies played. We got this rookie. We were out doing walkthrough like at noon, I think, on Friday or whatever it was. And we were, that turf was horrific. And the rookie was like, man, I can't believe we're playing this turf. And we were like, what are you talking about? I said, well, it's the turf we play. I said, no, this is Phillies turf. They roll this up and they put new turf down for our games.
Uh-huh.
They're like, they do that every time we have a game? They change the turf? We're like, oh, yeah.
And it wasn't true at all.
No,
but they should have.
I mean, the dumbest rookie known to mankind.
And it was the worst field ever.
Oh, it was horrific.
It was an absolute disgrace. All right, quick break here, and then back with great detail. This is a really important story. I think it's very interesting. It's extremely well reported, and you will hear the details next.
With the Citi Double Cash Card, you get 1% cash back when you buy and 1% as you pay. That's like the joy of getting 2 W's on the road or catching the home run ball without spilling your drink. Double boom. Double the love with the Citi Double Cash Card. Apply now at Citi.com/doublecash.
All right, I'm posting this right now. This is a really, really interesting story that Seth Wickersham and Don Van Natta, who do a lot of our best investigative work here at ESPN, have written and has just gone up online. I just posted it. It's on ESPN.com. It's all over the place. And it is the story of behind the scenes what happened at those owners' meetings last week, Mike,
right,
in Lower Manhattan, where a variety of NFL players and the leadership of the Players Association were invited to talk about the issues of protests during the national anthem.
They're supposed to meet again this Tuesday.
Correct.
Right.
And the impact that it's having on the league. So there were a variety of stories that came out of that, and you were hearing kind of mixed things from different people. Here are some of the top-level bullet points, headlines coming out of that. So I'll read one, Mike, and then you just give me a quick thought, and we'll go through it. First, sponsors were described as rattled, including one that was threatening to pull out if there was a mandate for players to stand. They actually mentioned specifically some of the sponsors they're talking about, including Papa John's and USAA.
So everybody who's mad at the players for kneeling. They're saying here, if the league made a rule for them to stand, there would be sponsors that would leave them.
At least one. Again, sponsors were rattled, including one that was threatening to pull out if there was a mandate for players to stand. 11 owners were in the meeting with players. Headliners like Jerry Jones, Bob McNair, and Dan Snyder were not invited. Excuse me, not headliners. Excuse me, hardliners, which is a very important distinction.
Yes, it is.
I'm reading this off some small print here. Hardliners like Jerry Jones, Bob McNair, and Dan Snyder were not invited. Players told the owners there that the larger group of owners was being duplicitous, supporting them privately but not stepping out publicly. Demario Davis, linebacker of the Jets, apparently said, guys will stand up if you hear them, which sort of goes back to what Booger was saying here on the air. You want guys to stand up, listen to what we're asking for. Pay attention to what we want here, and then the guys will stand.
Let's be a part of at least a solution that we can have some say in.
The NFL's VP of Social Responsibility led a group that put together a proposal to respond to players' concerns. It was widely panned by the league's business executives, but supported full bore by Goodell. In the meeting, Goodell was impressive, leading in a way the players hadn't seen. He told owners they weren't hearing players' concerns and seemed compassionate to players in the face of pressure from hardline owners and business executives. The 11 owners reported back to the full ownership group that afternoon, but a full discussion wasn't held until the second day. Snyder and Jones were passionate about the business impact the protests were having. McNair said, quote, we can't have the inmates running the asylum, end quote. Former player and current NFL executive Troy Vincent was offended by the inmate remark and said as much. I would
agree with that. Yeah.
There was no vote on a mandate to stand, but an unofficial tally had only 9 owners in favor of a mandate. Some of this was seen as a rebuke to Jerry Jones for a variety of reasons, including putting them all in a corner with his hardline comments. Overall gist is the meeting with the players was constructive dialogue. The owners' meetings themselves were more contentious.
Well, what I'll say is, as far as I didn't think we were going to come out with a mandate or a new rule, because I think that would have poisoned what they were trying to accomplish. If all of a sudden you went in there and tried to have a conversation about players saying, listen, we'll stand if you hear us, let's work together on something, and then the league were to come out of that and say, we're making a rule, you have to stand, you're just aggravating the situation, in my opinion. So that wasn't going to be the answer to that. It was going to be, okay, if we can show some positive things that we can do in our cities, let's take care of what we can take care of. We can take care of things in the cities we do, and if players want to do it in other places, that's fine as well. But we have 32 NFL cities. If we want to work with league and players in those cities to do some things concretely, then that's a good thing to do. And hopefully there are plans to do that. I've read some of the proposed plans that hopefully they'll talk about again. We'll see. I mean, we'll see where that goes. You wanted it to leave. I didn't think anything was going to come out of that first meeting with pen to paper, whether it was we agree to give you X amount of help or money or whatever in each city where players work together, or there's a mandate you have to stand. That was an initial meeting, and I think you wanted to be an amicable meeting. And then the next one, the Tuesday, if they in fact have this meeting, I think you can get down to hopefully more brass tacks of, okay, now what physically concrete things can we do?
Once again, there's a lot of detail. It's really well reported in the story. Seth Wickersham, Don Van Natta. It's up online right now. Joey Galloway on his way in the studio next. Mike and Mike.